Now, we have covered dozens of different Dragon Ball What If topics on the channel before, many of which were brought to my attention either as a fan request or as a general interest I had in talking about a concept I found to be interesting, and now we find ourselves with yet another crossover involving 3 gifted Saiyan warriors and a deranged psychopath who's inhabiting a Saiyan's body with all the potential in the world to wipe out all life within the existing universe. Now for this, we are going to be breaking this concept and discussion up into 2 separate parts. Part 1, which details the concept and story of Goku Black jumping through space-time and winding up in Universe 6 after his very first battle against Super Saiyan 2 Goku to fight Kale, Kaba, and Caulifla before they were sent into the World of Void to battle in the Tournament of Power. And Part 2, which we will be discussing on the channel tomorrow, which details the concept and story of Goku Black jumping through space-time and winding up in Universe 6 after fighting Goku and Vegeta for the last time before fusing, and the events that followed after the Tournament of Power but before Dragon Ball Super Broly. So for the sake of storytelling and argument, we will be addressing Part 2 on tomorrow's video, while sticking on the main narrative on today's video, which again, before we dive any further, if you are new to this channel and love anime and Dragon Ball, then be sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button to sub to the channel and ring the bell icon to never miss a single one of our videos that we upload daily onto the channel, to which you guys can also find all the latest and best Dragon Ball What If concepts and stories located down in the description box below, to where there you will be able to find the official Dragon Ball What If playlist for all the latest interesting and best Dragon Ball What Ifs, so be sure to go on ahead and check that out down below. As we initially kick things off with Goku Black having to presumably land on planet Sadala, where Kaba, Kale, and Caulifla would be set to be at before entering the World of Void to compete in the Tournament of Power. Now it's because of this that 2 out of the 3 Saiyans among that group possess the ability to instantaneously transform into Super Saiyan at will. Those individuals, of course, being Kaba and Caulifla. And we're further going to be discussing as to why Kale would essentially be left out in the meantime of Goku Black having to engage against Caulifla and Kaba, as we do further understand that indeed, Kale does possess the ability in transforming into the Berserker Super Saiyan state that we've seen prior to the Tournament of Power, but unlike both Kaba and Caulifla prior to being within the World of Void during the Tournament of Power, Kale does not possess the ability to transform into a Super Saiyan at will, let alone controlling her Berserker power as we've seen during the Tournament of Power. So in this scenario, Goku Black at base would have ultimately understood what it would have been like to engage against a Super Saiyan 2 like Goku in the past timeline, which of course using the time ring to further locate future Trunks, in which led him to the battle against Goku to begin with. So here, when entering planet Sadala, Goku Black's initial threats in the beginning would immediately be both Kaba and Caulifla, for the simple fact that they are the only ones that are able to transform into Super Saiyan at will. But even then, if both Kaba and Caulifla don't synchronize their attacks against Goku Black individually after fighting Super Saiyan 2 Goku would immediately begin by targeting them one by one, and not only beating them down into the ground, but potentially going as far as to kill them, which the Saiyans do have the numbers advantage if they decide to attack Goku Black together. But even then, there is no definite guarantee if Caulifla and Kaba would be able to synchronize their attacks enough in creating enough power and force to further damage Goku Black and potentially go as far as to kill him. But even if somehow Caulifla and Kaba managed to synchronize their attacks and creating enough force to put base Goku Black down, there's always that chance that we could potentially see Super Saiyan Goku Black as we've seen in the Dragon Ball Super manga, which only then would go as far as to favor Goku Black even more, especially counting in his adaptability factor. The one key component in this entire situation at the end of the day would be Kale, but being that Kale at this current point in time does not possess the ability to transform herself, the only scenario at that point in forcing Kale to transform even further would be if Caulifla's life was on the line due to Goku Black's overwhelming amount of attacks besting Caulifla in battle. And with Kale having to be forced in awakening this Berserker power onto the surface, This would actually put Goku Black at a huge disadvantage if he doesn't already have Super Saiyan Rose to his disposal, to which, as the fight ultimately intensifies, Super Saiyan Berserker Kale would ultimately have the upper hand against Black, despite what Black's best efforts would be in his attempts of surviving against Kale. Now, there is no question that Goku Black would possess the ability and power to kill Kaba and possibly even Caulifla, although she does also have a very high adaptability feature, as we've seen during the Tournament of Power against Son Goku. In this scenario against Black, I don't see it to where Goku Black would even allow Caulifla to grow in power, especially if he recognizes the threat at hand. The biggest problem and component in this entire equation would be Kale's unstable and uncontrollable power, being that Goku Black at this point does not possess Super Saiyan Rose. But going further into this fight, what Goku Black can ultimately do is drag on the fight long enough to where he can ultimately adapt to Kale's Berserker power. Just as seen when Goku Black fought against Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta in base, he was not only able to hold his own in taking Vegeta's attacks in base, but also going as far as to retaliate before transforming into Super Saiyan Rose. And being that here he does not have the Rose power, we can only assume that Goku Black can go as far as to push himself in evolving further into a Super Saiyan 2 and maybe perhaps even going as far as evolving into a Super Saiyan 3. And that is all attributed to Goku's battle memories, being that Zamasu is currently possessing the vessel of Goku, who in fact does know the abilities of transforming into a Super Saiyan 2 and 3. But even if Goku Black were to go as far as to transforming into a Super Saiyan 2 or 3, do I think he possesses any sort of chance in standing up against Kale, who is shown to be later hanging in there with the likes of Super Saiyan Blue Goku during the Tournament of Power? But even then, I do believe that Goku Black possesses the intelligence factor to outsmart Kale, to where not only Goku Black can play mind tricks on her with his hacks by using instant transmission and various other techniques and abilities that Goku's body does possess, such as the solar flare, the after image technique, and many other things, but I do think that the only way Goku Black could survive in this battle is if somehow he is able to outsmart Kale in every conceivable way. Against Caulifla and Kaba, unless he allows Caulifla to grow in power, Goku Black in this scenario would absolutely murder both Caulifla and Kaba, leaving Berserker Kale as possibly the last person going up against him to determine whether or not he will live or he will die. Which by the end of it, unless Goku Black does have the ability to transform into Super Saiyan Rose, which at this current point in time we will go as far as to say that he can't, which now only leaves Goku Black and simply having to go as far as to use Super Saiyan 3, do I think Kale would completely annihilate Goku Black unless somehow Goku Black in his last attempts of survival somehow manages to escape. Which the scale in this scenario would tip the Saiyans, as they would not only be able to outnumber Goku Black if they worked together, which if all three of them ended up doing, Goku Black would simply be done for, but even if he was somehow able to eliminate 2 out of the 3 remaining Saiyans, to which unless Kaba were to be the last person remaining, then Goku Black would completely win, especially when targeting a very vulnerable Kale in base and murdering Caulifla right before her eyes, which by then Goku Black would have to eliminate the 2 most opposing members on the other side, which would be Kale and Caulifla due to their adaptability factor and the fact that both of them have been shown before to improve a lot more than Kaba. If Kale somehow ends up getting destroyed by Goku Black first, does this not mean that Goku Black would have simply taken the victory, but only means that Caulifla would simply increase in power and adapt to the anger and rage brewing within her, just as we've seen during the Tournament of Power? Which the same ideal could be applied if Caulifla were to be the first one destroyed, leaving Kale as the last remaining Saiyan. Does this not mean that Goku Black would simply take the victory, especially when having to deal with an uncontrollable transformation such as Kale's Berserker form? But one thing about Berserker Kale that would throw Goku Black off his game would be her constant attacks that don't seem to let off, especially when she's coming towards you. The only scenario Goku Black would have the best chance of winning would be is if somehow he manages to kill Kale first, followed by destroying Caulifla and not allowing her to use the pain of loss as a means in transforming, then finally Kaba, who would be the weakest out of the 3. Goku Black's mission while in Universe 6 would be to essentially kill everyone. It would be no different than what he had originally planned in the Universe 7 timeline, except here we substitute Goku, Vegeta, and future Trunks for Kaba, Kale, and Caulifla. But I am not alone in this conversation, as joining me to further discuss the concept of Goku Black in Universe 6 is my good friend SuperSaiyanPaul, as right off the gate I wanted to ask you how you personally feel this scenario would play out if Goku Black was somehow involved against the Universe 6 Saiyans, and how the initial battle would go without having the ability to transform into Super Saiyan Rose.
In my opinion, if we were to see base Goku Black versus Super Saiyan Kaba, Kale, and Caulifla, I would believe that Black would get his ass handed to him, honestly. I think that regardless of him being the strongest of the bunch in base form, even if he's able to beat a Super Saiyan Kaba and overcome him and everybody else, the X factor in this fight would be Kale. The reason being is that if Kale sees Caulifla get beat up, she's going to go into that Berserker form. That Berserker form is far beyond anything Goku Black has fought at this point in time. If we're talking right before he had fought in Goku in the series, like this is just base Goku Black before he used the adaptability technique. And the reason why I think the fight would end really, really fast if he doesn't get time to retreat is that Kale in that Berserker form is going to kill him before anything else. And her with that overwhelming power wouldn't give him a chance to survive. That was one of the mistakes that Goku did, where he did the common ground thing where he decided to, hey, I'm going to fight you in Super Saiyan 1, and now this is Super Saiyan 2, and this is the power even beyond that. He kept slowly, incrementally powering up rather than just going Super Saiyan Blue right away and finishing right out of the water. So if Kale doesn't give him time to retreat and she goes into that Berserker form, which was so dangerous that even Jiren had to step into, I feel like Black literally has no chance in this type of scenario. And with that being said, Kale is the trump card. She is the end-all be-all and the answer to Goku Black if she did come across him. Now, he does have the adaptability as well as Kaba and Caulifla in the fight. Like, if we're just talking about those two fighting him and it was almost semi-evenly matched, even though I think he might be able to defeat the two, they may adapt to the point where they'll be able to handle him, but I don't think it's going to be that different in terms of like an actual outcome. I think it would be almost a stalemate, if anything. Kale is the part that chips the balance of the favor for them. So that's why I believe that even Super Saiyan 1 Black would be able to take out maybe Kaba and Caulifla, but not Kale because of how deadly she is.
Okay, now let's say in theory, if Super Saiyan Goku Black is no match for Super Saiyan Kaba and the combined efforts of both Kale and Caulifla, or even if it was just Kale by herself in this enraged berserker-like state, even if Goku Black were to somehow evolve himself in possibly tapping into Super Saiyan 2, or even going as far as to push himself in using Super Saiyan 3, where do you think the common ground would lie if Goku Black were to use this pain as some sort of a trigger in unlocking Super Saiyan 2 and even Super Saiyan 3. In a case like this against Caulifla and Kaba, I could ultimately see Goku Black getting the better of them, but against a Berserker Kale, an uncontrollable Kale with all of her power harnessed onto the surface, how do you see that fight being dictated if Goku Black were to evolve himself?
I think even if he adapted and he went further than Super Saiyan and went Super Saiyan 2, maybe even Super Saiyan 3, while adapting to Kale's power, I still don't think that would be enough. We're not even talking about Rose here, but even I honestly believe even if he did hit Rose, it's still a challenge to him to defeat the Berserker form. I think at that point in time in the Tournament of Power, when Kale went into that Berserker form, she was beyond that of even Super Saiyan Blue. And we know that from at least the show and even the manga in some cases, Super Saiyan Blue was able to compete with Rose, and Berserker being uncontrollable and this deadly and this powerful is much more dangerous to him than anything else because it just overpowers him. It's brute force, and if she's that pissed off at him and he's the only thing in sight, she will kill him without any hesitation because there's literally no real chains on this beast, and that's why she's more deadly than he is. And I think Jiren, more than anybody in that instance, kind of demonstrated that to us all. I think at that point, if he was able to get to Super Saiyan 3 and with all the techniques and we were trying to gauge him here, I think he'd overpower Kaba and Caulifla easily, even if they were able to adapt. But Kale, it's just too much power. Now, if he was to use either Kaba or Caulifla as like a human shield or something and use them as his trump card against him, I think you'd have to act pretty fast because Kale, she skips everything. She doesn't give him time to power up. She doesn't give him time to think, and she might just go directly for the kill. You never know what she may do with how that goes. But how fast Black thinks about that is really the factor here. I think if he was to pull maybe Kaba, she would still end up killing both of them. If it was Caulifla, she might be able to regain consciousness. I think that's the only case scenario if he realizes that. But if he picks the wrong one, like Kaba, I think they're both dead. I think she would kill both of them with how blind and rageful she is. So I think if he was to kill anyone and there was any casualties, it would definitely be Kaba and Caulifla, triggering hit Kale, if anything. Imagine if he killed them outright. That would put her into the Berserker form. And as good as the adaptability based Black Goku had, I don't think that it's enough or even fast enough for him to actually win in an engagement, because it did take him to retreat back to his time to go and actually take these adaptabilities into fruition. Like, he had to go and practice in the other timeline versus when he was fighting Goku. Goku broke his ribs and Goku wasn't even at max power. Imagine a max powered hit from Kale into Goku Black. His whole arm might fly off or something. I don't think it would be enough. Like, he wouldn't have enough time to adapt. And I think she would land so many devastating hits. You would have to realize this within like a minute at most fighting this creature, that you're in for it and you have to retreat right now to go and actually adapt. If his adaptability was that fast, then I would say he has a chance, but I don't think it's fast enough to match the raw brute strength of Kale.
What about as a means of escape? Do you think that Goku Black, after realizing that perhaps maybe he's outclassed, bested by these three individual Saiyans in which he's never met before in a different universe, do you think that as a means of survival, he would go as far as to either leave in retreating back to his timeline, or do you see Goku Black using his abilities to transfer himself to a different planet outside of planet Sadala, if that's the planet in where this fight's going to be taking place? Do you see ultimately in the long run Goku Black's best interest being that he should escape, or do you think that Kale, being the fact that she would be potentially the strongest one among the group, being the one to not let him go and kill him off before he finds a way to escape?
I think for him, he'd be petty enough to actually kill them, everyone except for Kale. And if he was able to escape, him retreating into his own time if possible, or retreating to another planet if possible, if that was even the case, he would kill everyone in his wake as a way, because he's very petty and he's vengeful. So I think he would go and like unleash his wrath upon all the innocent people. But at the same time, I don't think he'll last more than 30 seconds to a minute with Kale. I think if she actually nails like a tackle on him, his whole body is just absolutely thrashed. Even if it's Goku's body, I don't think he would be able to survive an actual engagement at that level with Kale. There's just no limits, no holds barred against him. And at that level of power, that's something that a lot of people wanted from Dragon Ball fights, like in some cases. But at the same time, that's boring because of how fast it's a one-punch man type of thing, where if you get hit by this, you're dead. And we know this. You're obliterated. So I think Base Black, if he manages to survive maybe a few hits from Kale and retreat right away, that's his only clause for escape. Otherwise, if he was being petty and actually had more time, he'd probably kill Kaba and Caulifla, but I don't think Kale will give him that chance. I think that Berserker form Kale would absolutely destroy him.
I definitely agree that Kale's Berserker form would be the wild card in this entire fight, and unless Goku Black does in fact have Super Saiyan Rose, then I don't think he stands a singular chance in surviving this battle, especially if the three Saiyans manage to gang up on him. But if Goku Black understands from the get-go that there's something within Kale that he has to put down first, and further destroying her followed by Caulifla, I think from there it's easy pickings in getting rid of Kaba, as I do think that he would be the weakest among the three. But this is where you guys come in. I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. If Goku Black went into the Universe 6 timeline before the three Saiyans traveled into the World of Void to compete in the Tournament of Power, what do you guys think would have happened if Goku Black in his base, and even going as far as to use his standard Super Saiyan transformations, would have been like if he collided head-to-head against Kaba, Kale, and Caulifla? I want to get your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below, as we are going to be discussing part 2 on tomorrow's video. So again, if you guys are new to this channel, don't forget to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications to never miss a single video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys want to go on ahead and check out more awesome Dragon Ball What If concepts and discussions, then you guys can go on ahead and check out the official Dragon Ball What If playlist section located down in the description box below. below, so be sure to head down there and check out all the best and latest in Dragon Ball What If topics and discussions, alongside checking out and subscribing to my second and third channels located down below at Unreal Network, Unreal Royale, and Unreal Vlogs, to which there you guys will be able to find awesome content that you will not get to find on this channel. And as for Goku Black and the Three Saiyans, I don't think that this battle would be as easy for Goku Black as many people would paint it out to be, especially if the Saiyans decide to work in a synchronized kind of unit in fighting together rather than having to fight as singular warriors. Do I think it would give them the greatest chance in throwing Goku Black off his game? But the one thing that gives Goku Black the edge over the Saiyans is his adaptability factor and the fact that he has a lot of Goku's hacks, such as potentially the Kaioken, After Image Technique, Kamehameha, Super Saiyan transformations that range from Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, and even potentially Super Saiyan God if we don't want to include Rose, on top of using instant transmission and many other abilities to his disposal. Goku Black by no means is a joke of a character, but can he outsmart the Saiyans in time to further capture the victory over them? We're going to be discussing that concept and much more on part 2, so thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for listening, tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below, guys. Have a great day. Peace!
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god!
The fuck, Zarbon? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes, but Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Frieza.
Uh-oh.
Prepare to die!